everybody and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. In today's video I'm going to be talking about and kind of reviewing and giving my opinion on the Fraupow, I think that's how you say it, I never really know how you say it, Fraupow I'm assuming, breast pump, wearable breast pump. Now if you don't already follow me and watch my videos, I am a first-time mum of my baby girl, Novalee. She is now 6 months, nearly 6.5 months, and she is currently napping. So hopefully I'll be able to get this video filmed before she wakes up. So yeah, I'm going to just be reviewing this breast pump. Now just a little background information sort of in regards to our feeding journey. So when I was pregnant, I was kind of very open to feeding her whatever way I needed to, but my preference would have been breastfeeding. In the first couple of weeks I was breastfeeding, but due to kind of like different kind of issues with like latch and tongue tie and supply and things like that, my breastfeeding journey was cut short, and we now exclusively formula feed Nova. But I did kind of get a few questions about the breast pump that I was using in some of my earlier videos when I was feeding her myself and when I was also expressing. So I did also use the pump for the first probably month and a half of her life, because I did continue to express after I finished breastfeeding, so we kind of did a little bit of combination feeding. I thought I could just do kind of my review and opinions on this pump. But obviously it is just my opinion from my experience. I can't say how this will be for other people and their feeding journeys, and I only used it for probably a month and a half, so I didn't use it for a very long period of time. I can just chat about my experience and when I used it. So the reason why I went for this pump is because it is called a wearable breast pump, and that was something that really appealed to me. There are different brands that do kind of wearable breast pumps, but the price tag on them is really quite high. So that was definitely something that I was kind of thinking about when purchasing a pump. So it comes in a nice little box like this, and this is basically how it's set up. It's really easy to put together. It's kind of got a few different parts, and all of this comes apart, so you can wash it up, and it's really easy to put together. And basically you can just slot this into your bra, and that is what it means by wearable. It's hands-free, there's no wires, it's battery powered, so you get like a charger, so you'll just have to charge it. But you're not plugged into anything. You don't have to wear a specific like bra or have to hold it there. You can literally just shove this in your bra, turn it on and pump. So that's why I went for this. I think this retails at £79.99, which again isn't exactly cheap, but it's a lot less compared to other brands that I've seen, and it kind of wasn't out of the way of our budget for a pump. I'm pretty sure you can get kind of more budget friendly ones, but I have never tried any other pump. This is the only pump I've tried, so this is, you know, I haven't got anything to compare it to. This is all I can talk about and my experience. So the fact that it is wearable and you can just pop it in that easily was great. I remember one time the midwife came around to me, and sort of after 10 minutes of being there, she was kind of like, what is that noise? And I was like, oh, it's my pump. And she didn't even realise that I was wearing my breast pump the entire time I was kind of like chatting to her. I think it is supposed to be quite quiet, which it is quite quiet, but it's not silent. You can definitely hear it, and it does make that you know, that classic breast pump sound. I don't actually know if any of them are completely silent. I feel like it's hard to get them to be silent, but it's not loud, it's not really that noticeable. So the convenience and ease of this is great. There was another time when we were going out for like our newborn photo shoot, and I needed to pump on the way in the car. This is when we were I was combination feeding at the time, so she was still feeding from me, but to kind of top her up I was expressing milk, so that enabled me to do that. I was kind of like out and about doing it. I wasn't restricted and stuck to being at home. The thing is, with pumping, it is a big commitment. Like, you do have to pump regularly if you want to build a supply and you want to keep your supply up. If you're not feeding, and if you are feeding, you have to be careful about oversupply. So it is quite a minefield and it is quite complicated. But for me, this was really easy. You know, the other thing with pumping is you kind of have to try and do it around the same time of day. Every time you've pumped, you have to then sort your milk out, and you have to be careful with mixing milk that's in the fridge and milk that's room temperature and how long the milk can keep. You also would need to wash and sterilise this every single time, which it wasn't that much of a faff because it was quite easy to wash and sterilise, but it is just another thing to add onto your to-do list when you've got a tiny baby. But that's kind of with any pump and any expressing, so that's not specific to this pump. Supply wise, I was kind of getting between 4 and 5 ounces every pump I was doing, and I was probably doing about 10 to 15 minutes on each side at each time. Again, I was kind of conscious of oversupply, but I was also wanting to build and get enough milk so I could feed my baby. So for me, I would say, you know, power wise and what I was getting was absolutely fine for me. If I was exclusively pumping, I don't know whether I would need more of a robust kind of hardcore pumping machine with slightly more power behind it. But for kind of like every now and again expressing, this would be amazing. Mixed between expressing and breastfeeding, again, I think this is great. You can also kind of put this in your boob if your baby's feeding. On one side, you can put this on the other side so it can kind of catch any letdown. It is a little bit bulky for that, so if you're like trying to hold your baby and keep this on one side, is a little bit bulky, but you can do that. Another thing that I did with this pump, which is kind of not recommended, but I actually used this to express some colostrum before I had Nova. I was trying to harvest colostrum, kind of hand expressing, and I found it really, really difficult, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to try with this, and it was great. It's not uncomfortable, it wasn't painful for me personally, even though we were having a few problems with like latching things, my nipples were a bit sore. I never found this like excruciating, it was really comfortable. The only thing that you had to be really careful about was the way you positioned it, sort of with your nipple. You needed to make sure that your nipple was completely inside this bit, because if it kind of moved and it was like the suction would not always be in the correct place. So if your nipple wasn't quite in it properly, it wouldn't be expressing the milk correctly. It would kind of be the suction would be going in the wrong place. But I do also think there was a choice online, I believe, of kind of like a different size as well, depending on your nipple size or something like that. So I would definitely just have a look online for kind of sizing and what products they have available. I actually didn't pay full price for this. They had an offer on when I bought it, so I think I paid around £60 for it, which I don't think was that bad. And kind of like I said, I think to get kind of a pump that is going to work well, you need to spend a little bit more money, but I don't know because I haven't personally ever used another pump, but I found this one to be really, really good and really great. So easy to use. I don't really have anything that bad to say about it from my experience, but obviously I didn't use it for very long. I wasn't having to express loads and loads of milk, and I haven't tried another pump, so I don't know. But for me, it worked really, really well. The only other kind of negatives I would say about it is obviously the price. It's not the cheapest one out there, but it's, you know, not horrendously expensive. And obviously you could only do one side at a time unless you were going to buy two. You can buy two. I think they do a set of two, or obviously just, you know, buy multiples. So you could then be pumping on both sides, so it wouldn't be like 10-15 minutes one side and then switching to the other side. But again, it's just the expense. But because it is so easy, and because it was hands-free and I could continue kind of like my everyday life, I didn't really feel that this was restricting because it was only one side. It wasn't a massive issue that I had to do it one side then swap to the other side. You know, for me, it really wasn't a bother. The only thing is sometimes it could slide around in your bra a little bit. So if you were like bending over and things, you had to be a little bit careful that it didn't slip out, or that it didn't leak. You also had to make sure that this seal was completely stuck down properly, because a couple of times I'd been using it and obviously the seal had come away a little bit, so maybe it like moved in my bra, and then I'd had like milk leaking out of the bottom, which was obviously really annoying because milk is very precious. So that would probably be another thing that I was a little bit, that wasn't so great about it. But I feel like there's always going to be certain things about every product that, you know, you don't like or could have a little bit of improvement. But actually, all in all, I really enjoyed using this. I think it was great. I think it actually helped extend my feeding journey with Nova, because it was so easy just to pop in and express the milk for me. Yes, it was time consuming. Yes, I did have to do an extra step to wash up, and yes, I did have to kind of, it was another thing to add into my routine. But I think if I had like a massive pump that I had to sit down with every time and was a lot more restricted, I think I probably wouldn't have continued it even for the time that I did. And again, it's so easy to take out and about with you. It's really easy and portable. You know, I ended up just putting it in a little bag and putting it in the changing bag, and I could take it out and about, which I guess with a lot of pumps you can't do. So all in all, I was really, really impressed with this, and I'm so glad that I had it. It enabled me to give Nova my milk for longer than she was feeding from me, and also enabled me to kind of top her up when she was hungry if she wasn't getting enough from me. Yes, we didn't do it for an extended amount of time, and yes, we ended up switching to formula feeding because that was just what worked for us. But if you are thinking about pumping or breastfeeding and you're wanting to express, then I mean, personally, from my experience, I would recommend it. Just, you know, take that with a pinch of salt. Everyone's different. I don't know, maybe if my supply had kind of been upped a bit more, if she was feeding from me properly, and if I was more strict with my pumping, whether I would have managed to get more milk, possibly. I don't really know if between 4 or 5 ounces is kind of like normal with a pump for that long. I don't know, because I haven't compared it to anything else, but I was definitely getting a good amount of milk. The other thing that I will say about this is, I don't think this has got any charge, but this is the on button. Oh, it does have charge, so you can hear it. But it has 2 different settings, so there's a mode here. So I can't remember which is which now. I think this love heart is what you can put on first, and that kind of like helps massage the nipple and kind of encourage it to express milk. And you can use the plus and minus button here to do the intensity. I think it goes up to 9 levels. You can build it up and up to 9 levels. And you can hear it's kind of suctioning a lot more. And then you can switch the modes to kind of fully express. That sound with the little drops is the one that is expressing the milk, sorry. I didn't always go up to level 9 very often. I think I kind of stuck for around level 7 and 8. But yeah, the little drops was the one that was expressing the milk, and the little love heart one mode was to kind of encourage it to produce milk. So the fact that it had different levels was amazing as well, because if you didn't want to express as much, or if your nipples were sore, and it wasn't such a shock, you could kind of like build it up. I don't think I've got anything else to say about this other than I'm really glad we purchased. I'm really glad I had it. I haven't got much bad to say about it, to be honest, and I would 100% buy it again. And when we, you know, if we have another baby, I'm glad that I've got this, and I would definitely like repurchase it if I was planning on breastfeeding. It obviously is a splurge if you don't know if you're going to breastfeed or express, and you might not need to get it until kind of you know what you're doing if you want to breastfeed and breastfeeding is established. But for me, I'm so glad I had it because my supply wasn't up. When speaking to the midwives, they said to me, well, we don't always encourage pumping. They don't kind of recommend pumping straight away if you are breastfeeding, but because we were struggling with supply and because she was hungry all the time with her tongue tie, I was feeding her from me, and then we were topping her up with express milk. All in all, I would highly recommend, from my personal experience. I don't know if it's going to be strong enough for some people, but for me it definitely was. It was comfortable, easy to use, in our budget, in our price range. The only negatives are the fact that it's only for one side. You have to remember to recharge it. and it's probably not as strong as others, but I can't say because I don't know, I can't compare it. That is everything in regards to the Fraupow breast pump. I really hope this was kind of helpful. I know it's just all my opinion and what was kind of my experience with it, but if you are planning on breastfeeding and wanting to kind of express and things, I know it is kind of a big thing, and it's good to do research about it. So hopefully this video will help you and will kind of give you something to think about. I don't really know how well known this brand is either, so hopefully it will just kind of give an insight into the minefield of breast pumps and expressing and all that kind of stuff. Thank you again so much for watching. If you have any suggestions or other videos you would like me to film, please let me know. Remember to like and subscribe because it really helps my channel, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.